Thank you so much, New India Junction, for organizing this very contemporary debate on this very contemporary issue that is being discussed among young people across not just the country but around the world. And a big round of applause to both the teams. They made some really interesting points and for enthusiastically participating in this program. Can we hear a round of applause for them? 2014 was a very important year for India. Can you tell me what happened in 2014? क्या हो गया? थोड़ा जोर से बोलो भैया. Who became the Prime Minister in 2014? I hear Rahul Gandhi from somewhere. उठा दो यार उनको, जगा दो. Who is that? Who became the Prime Minister in 2014? जोर से बोलो. Modi. So Modi ji became Prime Minister in 2014. Now in 2014, what was the position of India? Economically, पूरे विश्व में there were 5 countries that were considered to be the weakest economies. And the 5 countries were named as Fragile 5. Right? Fragile मतलब क्या होता है? Fragile मतलब क्या होता है? Delicate होता है, weak होता है, right? So there were 5 countries which were considered as the weak economies. So India was one of the fragile 5 economies in 2014. Now I have a general knowledge question to all of you. Among the world economies today, what is the position of India? Third, हम होंगे, आप सबके, हम सबके प्रयास के वजह से 2-3 साल के अंदर अंदर होंगे, मोदी जी के 3rd टर्म में होंगे. But today where are we? We are the world's 5th largest economy. So what is the journey from 2014 to 2023? What have we done? From, जोर से बोलिए, fragile 5 to top 5. This is what the country has done in the last 9 years. From being the most kamzor 5 economies to becoming one of the 5th top 5 economies of the country, of the world. This is what the country has done. How have we done this? Now, in 2013, 2014, I told you that the country was going through a lot of challenges. One of the challenge was, one of you said that there was no trust in government. There was corruption at a large scale. This was one big change that has taken place. So because of corruption, there was economic woes, there was uncertainty in policy, and there was absolute policy paralysis. Policy paralysis मतलब क्या होता है? The government was not in a position to take strong, decisive steps, strong action. And when governments cannot take strong policy action, investors do not have confidence to come and invest. Investors do not have confidence to come and start new businesses. So 2014 se pehle, the problem was the country had economic woes, there was large scale corruption, there was policy paralysis. And as a result of that, देश में what were happening? High inflation हो रहा था. There was depreciation of the currency. There was high current account deficit and high fiscal deficit. मतलब देश का कर्ज बढ़ रहा था, right? And विदेश से, institutional lenders से देश बहुत ज़्यादा लोन ले रखा था. So because of all of these things, the country's economy was in doldrums. उसके वजह से क्या हुआ? The country's ratings as a nation decreased. The country's FDI क्या होता है? क्या होता है? Foreign direct investment कम हो गया. Investment जब कम होता है क्या होता है? फैक्ट्रीज, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कम हो जाता है। उससे क्या होता है, लोगों के पास जितना काम होता है वो कम हो जाता है, उससे एक्सपोर्ट्स कम हो जाता है। जब हम एक्सपोर्ट कम करते हैं तब देश के पास जो पैसा होता है, जो आदाय होता है देश का, इनकम जो होता है, वो भी कम हो जाता है। राइट, इट्स अ साइकिल। सो दिस इज व्हाट happened in the country before Narendra Modi became Prime Minister. Then, I want all of you to very keenly study and observe these graphs. GDP growth was 4.5. What is it today? कितना है? 7.8. What was the inflation? 8.7. महंगाई के बारे में बात करते रहते हैं ना ये लोग। महंगाई कितना था? 8.7 था, आज कितना है? 4.8 है। FDI, we just saw that because of policy paralysis, because of corruption, because of all of these things, FDI का बहुत कम हुआ था। What was FDI? How much? How much is it today? मतलब कितना? Twice and plus. 2013 से पहले अगर 100 रुपए FDI आता था तो आज कितना आ रहा है? 200 से ऊपर आ रहा है। Right? That is the difference in FDI. Exports कितना था? $300 billion. आज कितना है? Even in exports कितना इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ है? Twice. Exports में twice इंप्रूवमेंट हुआ है। Forex reserve क्या होता है? Can anybody explain this? There are so many students from law, students from engineering. Forex reserves क्या होता है? देश का foreign exchange reserves. मतलब if tomorrow India wants to buy something from, say buy petroleum from Saudi Arabia, right? It depends on how much money India has at its disposal, which is foreign exchange reserves. So if India wants to trade with any other country and buy anything, the capability of our strength to buy depends on the forex reserves. So जितना ज़्यादा होता है उतना देश का क्षमता ज़्यादा होता है. So what was it 2013? $270 billion. आज कितना है? कितना है? 600 billion in just 9 years. Current account deficit. मतलब, I don't know how many of you are students of economics or anything, but I'm sure some, in law at least, when I was a student of law, we studied some economics. Are you studying some economics now as well? Basic economics. Right? So, current account deficit is the gap between our income and the gap between the expenditure. So, it was 5.1% of GDP, it is now 2% of GDP. Like this, if you look at any particular graph, whether it was inflation, whether it was our exports, whether it was our FDI, in every aspect there is almost a 2 times increase in the last 9 years. This is why over the last 9 years we became from fragile 5 to top 5. Now, this is a very interesting chart. 2009 to 2014 के बीच में, look at this chart. While the GDP growth was somewhere around 7.9, the inflation was 10.8. Can you see this? Look at the second one. GDP growth is 8.5. Inflation is 12.1. GDP growth is 5.2 and inflation is 8.9. Take the last one, 6.4 and inflation is 10%. Let me explain to you in very, very simple terms what this means. अगर आप में से कोई बाहर काम कर रहे हैं, आपका सैलरी आ रहा है, ठीक है? If you are earning 100 rupees and if your खर्चा is 110 rupees, आपका सेविंग्स कितना है? कितना है? अगर आपका इनकम 100 रुपए है और आपका एक्सपेंडिचर 110 रुपीज है, आपके पास सेविंग्स कितना है? -10, right? So this is exactly what is seen here. Negative savings because inflation was more than GDP growth. So 2014 से पहले the amount of money that India and Indians were earning versus the pace at which inflation was going ahead, there was a lot of difference. Our income was less, our inflation was high, therefore there was no savings in the country. Now, fast forward to 2022, 2023, you will see that except the COVID year, inflation is always less than GDP growth. Are you getting the point? So now what is happening? 2014 se pehle, you were earning 100 rupees and you had to spend 110 rupees. Now, you are earning 110 rupees and you are spending 103 rupees, 104 rupees, which is what? 6 rupees of savings, 7 rupees of savings. Are you getting this point? Are you understanding this? Now, this 6 rupees of savings that Indians are doing, where is this going? This is going into people are investing in stocks, people are investing in mutual funds, people are buying new properties, people are doing more digital transactions, people are consuming more goods. Because of this more savings, because of this more consumption, there is an overall buoyancy and strength in the economy. Are you all understanding this? Are you all following what I'm saying? Yeah? So this is a fundamental difference that we are seeing before 2014 and after 2014. Now, this is a very, very interesting slide. See how, can you see this? See where India was and where India is and where India will be. Still we are not there in the top 10. Now, 2027, we will be the top 3rd economy in the world. I want to tell all of you a very interesting factoid. I want to again ask all of you, let me see. Whoever answers this question right, okay, whoever will answer this question right, will get a special treat from me. India got independence in? This is not the question, by the way. In 1950, when Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, what was India's position as the top economies in the world? 1950, it was very low. Okay. Top? She is saying very low, you are saying top 3 or 5, yaar. 1950, when Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister, what was India's position in the world economy? 100 and? Are Google, I am seeing everybody now going back to your phones. Ye cheating hai. Okay, I am not going to let all of you go and Google this. India was the 6th largest economy in the world. He was very close to that. But it was just a guess, it was fluke. Was it a fluke? Almost a fluke. So, what was India's position? India was the 6th largest economy. Despite what? Despite 1,000 years of colonization. मतलब 1000 साल तक इस देश को विदेशियों ने आक्रमण कर लूट लिया था, उसके बावजूद भी 1950 में भारत 6th largest economy था. Right? Now, fast forward it to 1967, 1968. When Lal Bahadur Shastri took over as Prime Minister from Jawaharlal Nehru, India was the 12th largest economy in the world. And many of you will be surprised to know this, जब लाल बहादुर शास्त्री जी ने प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में काम करना शुरू किया, भारत के पास चावल और अनाज भी नहीं था और हम अमेरिका से भीख मांगने जैसे we had to import अनाज और राइस in 1968-69. So what was Nehru's contribution from 1950 to 1967? From 6th position to 12th position. What is Narendra Modi ji's contribution? From fragile 5 to top 5. This is the difference between 1950 to 1968 and 2014 to 2023. Are you seeing this difference? This is what the numbers are speaking. Now, there are 7 very important aspects which I must tell you. Sanya, I must congratulate you, the whole management of Manav Rachna University. All the 7 points that are going to come in this slide as 7 pearls of transformation, the students of Manav Rachna answered all of them even before the start of the presentation. Now, you guys mentioned banking reforms, somebody mentioned manufacturing, somebody mentioned digitization and formalization of economy, then somebody mentioned execution of laws and it's becoming as easy, general reforms, digitization was mentioned, welfare of the poor, the trust in the government, that was mentioned, infrastructure was mentioned. All of these 7 important aspects of governance that has transformed the country, Manav Rachna mentioned all of that even before seeing this. You are aware citizens. This is something that I must give all of you. Now let's go all of these one by one very quickly. Banking reforms what were the changes? Now, do you all recognize that banks are a very important aspect of a formal economy? Why is bank very important? Can somebody explain the role of a bank in a society? If, again, you will get a special treat if you answer this question properly. Why are banks very important in an economy? Money flow, investment, loan transaction, then supply economy. Again, bang on, all very apt answers. Now, what was the situation, what was the health of India's banks in 2014? This is something that all of us as young Indians must appreciate. 2014 se pehle, India's banking sector had massive problems. One of the problems was that Indian banks had a lot of NPA. NPA क्या होता है? यार सब जानते हैं आप लोग. So NPA is non-performing asset. What is a non-performing asset? What is a non-performing asset? So bank किसी को loan दिया गया है and that loan is not being furnished. They are not paying rents on that. That becomes a non-performing asset. So देश के banks में 2018 में 2014 से what was the percentage of non-performing asset? 14% assets of the Indian banks were non-performing assets. Matlab, imagine this in a very small scale, you will understand the magnitude of this problem. If you lend 100 rupees to your friends, if you lend 100 rupees amongst 100 of your friends, 1 rupee each you are lending, about 15 people are not returning your interest back. Will you sustain as a bank? Will you sustain as a lender? So the situation in 2018 was such that when India's banks were lending, the lending was done on precarious grounds, and we had a 14.6% NPA crisis. Indian banks were in distress. And if banks are in distress, you cannot give good loans. Like you said, the whole supply-demand economy collapses. If somebody wants to start a new business, they have to go to a bank. Banks are not lending. Banks ka health theek nahi hai. You cannot formalize the economy. All of these challenges took place. But what happened? Narendra Modi happened. And what did he do? From 14.6% NPA, what is the NPA of Indian banks today? 3.9%. Isn't this a massive transformation? This just shows how India's banking sector was reformed. Look at this slide. The PSBs. PSBs क्या होता है? Can anybody say what is a PSB? Public sector bank. Public sector bank क्या होता है? SBI हो गया, Canara Bank हो गया, all of these big banks, public sector banks. Public sector banks का profits has increased 3 times. मतलब from being 14% NPA to 3 times increasing in profit. Imagine the change that has happened in the banking sector. Now look at the market cap. From 4.52 lakh crore to 10 lakh crore, the market capitalization of our PSBs. Massive support that our PSBs are giving to entrepreneurs. This was the banking reforms. Then the whole of the banking industry started. Now when the banks became better, like some of you said very rightly, बैंक ठीक हो जाए तो क्या मिलता है बैंक से? लोन मिलता है. लोन किसको मिलता है? बिजनेसमैन को मिलता है, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को मिलता है, जो नया इंडस्ट्री खड़ा करना चाहते हैं उनको मिलता है, कोई नया यूनिवर्सिटी खोलना चाहते हैं उनको मिलता है, नया स्कूल कॉलेज शुरू करना चाहते हैं उनको मिलता है, स्टूडेंट को स्टूडेंट लोन मिलता है. Right? Lot of things start happening. Now because of that there was a manufacturing boom in India. Now look at this. What all happened in the manufacturing boom? There were so many things that were made. Companies Act was reformed. The corporate tax rates were reduced. MSMEs in India got access to easy loans. And as a result of all of this, just in the Indian toy industry, what is the numbers that has changed? सिर्फ toy industry में देखिए आप, 167 crores was what we were earning. Today we are earning 1017 crores just in the toy industry. Isn't this massive? Now, I asked you in the very beginning, आप से कितने लोग change को अनुभव किया है? The mobile phones in your pockets. If you remember, 6-7 years ago, 99% of the mobile phones would be made in. Now even Apple 13, Apple 14 is being made right here in Gurgaon. Right? So this is the change. And what is the change today? India is the second largest producer of mobile phones in the world. Automobile market, we are the third largest automobile market in the world. 500% increase in toy manufacturing in the country. So whichever parametrics you take, India is increasing its manufacturing footprint. This is something that has happened. Now somebody made a very interesting point about digitalization and formalization. Look at this change that has taken place. This will blow your mind away. Now, 99% of Indians today have a unique digital identity through Aadhaar, right? Everything starting from your mobile phone, SIM card, starting from your FASTag. If you want to open an application, like register on, say, open an account on Meta or open an account on Twitter, whether you want to buy a property, register a property, everything is based on Aadhaar today. And how many percent of Indians have this? 99% of Indians today have a unique identity through Aadhaar. Now, somebody mentioned in the audience a very interesting point of banking. 50 crore Indians got access to bank accounts for the first time. Which is a scheme? Which is a scheme? Jan Dhan Yojana. How many Indians got access? 50 crore. Now, one second, I want you to spend a minute on this. Are you following me all this while? Yeah? Now, when did this 50 crore people get access to bank accounts for the first time? 2014 के बाद. So imagine, for 70 years after independence पाने के बाद 70 साल के बाद, even in 2014, देश के 50% पॉपुलेशन के पास बैंक अकाउंट तक नहीं था. बैंक अकाउंट में पैसा की बात छोड़ दीजिए, बैंक अकाउंट ही नहीं था इनके पास. When 70 years after independence, it's only after 2014 that 50 crore Indians got access to a mobile digital Aadhaar and a bank account through Jan Dhan scheme. Now, mobile penetration. There was a time when my parents and your parents will tell you this story. अगर लैंडलाइन कनेक्शन लेना चाहते थे तो एमपी के पास, मिनिस्टर के पास रिकमेंडेशन लेटर लेना पड़ता था. और आज देश में अगर आप मोबाइल फोन खरीदना चाहते हो तो हर मोबाइल फोन डबल सिम कार्ड है, राइट? एंड आपको 5 मिनट में सिम कार्ड कनेक्शन मिल जाएगा. एंड वी हैव द चीपेस्ट डेटा रेट्स इन द वर्ल्ड. एंड देश में 84% of the country today has mobile penetration. Massive change that has taken place. Look at the loans that the country's banks have given. I mentioned in the very first slide the banking reform. Sab bank theek ho gaya, manufacturing theek ho gaya. When manufacturing becomes big, it's not just the big manufacturers. जो छोटे-छोटे manufacturers होते हैं, उनको भी बहुत बड़ा income मिलता है. So Mudra Yojana, 43 crore accounts people got. 43 crore loans have been sanctioned. ये कौन होते हैं मुद्रा लोन में? जो पापड़ के दुकान शुरू करना चाहते हैं, अचार का एक फैक्ट्री शुरू करना चाहते हैं, या छोटे छोटे ऐसे कुछ स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री या कॉटेज इंडस्ट्री शुरू करना चाहते हैं, ऐसे लोगों को 43 crore loans have been approved. And what is the value of the loans? 25 lakh crore rupees has been given as mudra loans to the most weakest of people to start some new businesses. That is why India is on the rise today. So whether it is Swanidhi, whether all of these things has happened because of that. Then GST happened and India's indirect taxation became even more stronger. Then our workers got registered on the Shram portal. All of these happened. Then there were so many other reforms that were introduced, like one of our friends said. Like there were so many rules, regulations, laws in India that were made by the British. It was made in 1872, 1892. आप में से कितने लोग जो law students हैं, how many followed the latest parliament session where the Home Minister introduced 3 laws to replace IPC, CRPC and Evidence Act? How many of you followed it? All of you did? Great. I have a question now. Who drafted the Indian Evidence Act? Thomas Macaulay. Brilliant. You will be surprised to know that not just India's education system, even India's criminal justice system was actually drafted by Macaulay. And when was this done? When the East India Company was ruling India. Are you understanding? मतलब 1892 में, 1872 में, when the East India Company was ruling India, Thomas Macaulay drafted India's Evidence Act, India's Penal Code. And isn't it only natural that if a colonizer, an invader is drafting a law governing the natives, will he do such laws for the benefit of the natives? What would be the objective of drafting such law? To enslave the native, to impoverish the native and enrich himself. So despite 75 years of independence, we had not visited a lot of our laws which were made by the British. The IPC, Evidence Act, CRPC is just one example. Like that, there were 1,000 plus legislations in the country which were so old, so archaic, that they had no relevance to today's time and age. I will give you an example. There is an act called the Factories Act. I'm sure as students of law, somebody would have read it. Factories Act was done somewhere in 1940s. And 1940s के factories और 2020 के factories में फर्क होता है नहीं होता है? Don't you think the law needs to get updated? That was not done. So what Narendra Modi government did was to remove all of these old laws, archaic laws, British era laws, which was not allowing young Indians to explore their true potential and create entrepreneurship in India. This was a lot of reforms. And what did all of these reforms do? These reforms resulted in, just look at this, medical appliances. कितना ग्रोथ हुआ है देश में? कितना हुआ है? 91% ग्रोथ. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में कितना हुआ है? 76% ग्रोथ. ड्रग्स एंड फार्मास्यूटिकल्स में 46% ग्रोथ. फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री में 26% ग्रोथ. आई विल टेल यू हाउ यू आर सीइंग दिस चेंज. क्योंकि दिस इज जस्ट नॉट नंबर्स. आपको ऐसा नहीं लगना है कि मैं कुछ फालतू नंबर इधर उधर से पकड़ के मैं यहां लेकर आपको पीपीटी दे रहा हूं. आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल. मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर. द बिगेस्ट एग्जांपल इज द प्रूफ ऑफ द पुडिंग इज वेयर. आपके हाथ में जो मोबाइल फोन है, वेयर इज इट बीइंग मेड नाउ? इट इज बीइंग मेड इन इंडिया. इट्स जस्ट वन एग्जांपल ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में ग्रोथ. ड्रग्स एंड फार्मास्यूटिकल्स. जब कोविड हुआ, राइट, व्हाट वर द टू थिंग्स दैट इंडिया एक्सपोर्टेड? वैक्सीन के साथ और वैक्सीन से थोड़ा पहले व्हाट डिड वी? पीपीई किट में हम we had to import in the beginning, but later we exported. There was one particular drug, hydroxychloroquine. A big round of applause for him. Now, why was India capable of doing this? Because 46% growth in drugs and pharmaceuticals. Because India today is one of the biggest hubs of pharma and manufacturing in the world. That's an example. ये फालतू numbers नहीं है, because we are giving it to the rest of the world. Rest of the world is taking this from India. Food and processing. I want to ask you, if you go to a nearby small store, right? Just a few years ago, आपको packed chips खरीदना पड़ता था, तो there was just one or two brands. लेस होता था, प्रिंगल्स होता था, राइट? थोड़ा ज्यादा पैसा है तो आप प्रिंगल्स खरीदते थे, सस्ते में आना तो लेस खरीदते थे. ब्रांडेड इस प्रकार से नहीं था. बट टुडे इफ यू गो इन एवरी स्टोर, हाउ मेनी पोटैटो चिप्स ब्रांड विल यू सी? गिव मी 2-3 नेम्स. डोरिटोस, Haldiram's, Bikanos. Isn't that an example? I've just given one example that you can very clearly verify when you go to your nearest supermarket. So India के food processing industry में भी there is a massive change that has happened. The biggest is this that you already saw. India के FDI में क्या हुआ है? There is more than twice growth in the FDI from $36 billion to $84 billion. All of this is a result of that. Now, this is something that will excite all of you. 2014 में there were about 100 or so startups in this country. What is the number of startups in India today? Slide में नहीं है. What is the number of startups in India today? 91,000 plus startups India में आज काम कर रहे हैं. Isn't this an indication of the vibrancy, capability of our young people? There were 100 startups in 2014, 100 odd startups in 2014. Today we have 91,000 plus startups. And how many unicorns do we have? 100 plus unicorns. Unicorn क्या होता है? कितना valuation होना पड़ता है? $1 billion valuation. And how many companies are there in India, new unicorns which are $100 billion, $1 billion plus valuation? 100 plus. This is a massive transformation that has taken place in the last 9 years. आज के अपने college के vocabulary में there are some new words that have come. Startup, VC, bootstrapping, angel funding, Series A, Series B. Correct? ये vocabulary 10 साल पहले था क्या देश में? This new change in lingo, this new change in the vocabulary of youth is something that has massively transformed over the last 9 years. This was another point that somebody made here. And you all know about these things, so I don't want to spend much time. Just look at the numbers. India today has surpassed China in digital transformation. There was a recent video of German ambassador, I think German foreign minister, who had come to a sabzi market in Bangalore. And after purchasing 2 kilo of aloo and tomato, he made a payment on UPI. And the German foreign minister was stunned that digital payment happens so easily in India. And he said, I'm going to go back to Germany and introduce something of this kind. You saw this video recently? That is the story of the UPI. Recently at home, I was, going through doing some cleaning and all of that. And I came across some letters that, my father had written. And I got suddenly curious. I wanted to know if my father had written any love letters or something. So I, with a lot of curiosity, went and started reading them. So my father had written a letter to my grandfather. And he had asked for some money. And my grandfather replies back that I have sent you 6 rupees. I have, money order say I have sent you 6 rupees. In the next 3-4 days you will get it. In that 6 rupees, spend it wisely. 4 rupees you spend on this. 2 rupees you keep savings. And I can send you money only next month. So until that, please. This was a proper letter. If you go and ask your parents today whether they had a similar story, they will all tell you that there was a similar story. Have they ever told you a similar story of this kind? Money order में और कितना कठिन होता था पैसा भेजना. Right? Now, we send money not just across India, but whichever country has UPI, including Singapore, including France, and there are more countries following suit, we are sending money as easily as we send a WhatsApp message. And don't think that all countries in the world have this. Even countries like Germany don't have this technology today. That's how much of progress India has made in digital transactions. Isn't this amazing? This is the penetration of digital. Just look at these numbers. 100 lakh crores is the volume of transaction. Now, ये सब होने के बाद, I want to tell you what has this affected the poorest of Indian, the weakest of Indian. I have another question. Okay, somebody from the back answers this properly, you will get a meeting with the Prime Minister. Yes. Serious. How many Indians came out of poverty? How many Indians came out of poverty under Narendra Modi government? I'm serious, you'll get a meeting with the Prime Minister. No, you cannot Google this and tell now. Tell me properly. Acha, nobody answered. Time up. So, 13.5 crore Indians, okay, came out of poverty for the first time under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's leadership. Isn't this massive for a country of our scale? Now, in the very beginning of my presentation, I told you that the next 10 years is going to be extremely vital for all of us. And it is going to not only help the country, but it is also going to help us individually grow, right? Now imagine what this 13.5 crore people coming out of poverty will mean. How is this going to impact each single one of us sitting in this auditorium? Spend a minute. What's your name? So suppose Shreya today wants to start an online t-shirt selling business. Okay? If these 13.5 people were still living below poverty, could she have sold her t-shirt to those 13.5 crore people? No. Suppose today you want to start a small manufacturing industry where you want to make chappals. Okay? Now, if you are extremely poor, बहुत सारे घर में क्या होता है? They will keep one pair of chappals. Say mother-in-law and daughter-in-law both will use the same thing. Whenever we are going out, we will use it and we will come back. But now because they have come out of poverty, they have the money to buy 2 pairs of slippers. Where will they buy it from? They will buy it from that small chappal manufacturing unit that you would have started. So what has this resulted in? 13.5 crore people coming out of poverty and entering middle class means that many new Indians have now entered the consumption market. So starting from manufacturing of achar to mobile phone, papad to chips, from chappal to nice clothes. If you cannot buy Ray-Ban, you will at least buy Ray-Bon. Right? Have you seen these things that are sold? It's manufactured right here. No Adidas, but Abibas, theek hai, chalega. But they will still buy because it's an aspirational 13.5 crore Indians. Imagine what this is going to do. How many new companies will get new jobs? How many new entrepreneurs will get new market? How many new business people will get a new market that they can sell to? This is the massive transformation that has happened for the poor. And we have made available schemes for the poorest of Indians, which is the world's largest insurance scheme. Ayushman Bharat. 5 lakh rupees of insurance scheme for Indians. See, all of these things, 13.5 crore people, Indians escape poverty. Now, somebody spoke of infrastructure. You all know it. I don't want to spend time on it. Every day we see roads being made. Every day we see airports being made. Just look at this number on airports. This will blow your mind. How many airports existed in India before Modi? 74. How many are there today? 148. 70 साल में जितना एयरपोर्ट्स बनाया गया था, उससे ज्यादा एयरपोर्ट्स 7 साल में नरेंद्र मोदी ने बनाया. This is the numbers that is there. Road capacity, road construction, there is a change in everything. 2 times, 3 times. Now all of this has resulted in exports increasing, everything. Innovation may we are number 1. Global index may we are number 1. Ease of doing business may we have increased so much of, numbers. 100% electrification of villages. All of this has happened. This is something that is very interesting, and I would want to leave all of you with this thought. Look at these difference in the headlines. 2013, one headline said, economy grows at slowest rate in a decade in 2033. In 2023, what is the headline saying? India is fastest growing economy in the world. What was industrial growth in 2013? What was it? 20-year low, 1%. What is it in 2023? It's a high manufacturing growth in the economy. NPA 50% ज़्यादा हो गया था 2013 में. Now it has come to 3.1. We were the fragile 5 and today we are the fastest growing economy. This is the change. Now while doing all of this, who benefited the most? Who benefited the most? The poorest of Indians benefited the most. I want to end with saying this, my dear friends. आज का debate जो था, debate का subject was about wokeism. About socialism, about, seeing, okay, we want to be voice for the poor, we want to be this is a capitalist economy. You would have heard Rahul Gandhi say this is suit boot ki sarkar, correct? That Modi ji Adani ke liye kaam karte hain, Ambani ke liye kaam karte hain. Have you heard all of these things? This slide gives you a real indication of who Narendra Modi really works for. 50 crore Indians got access to bank accounts for the first time. That happened because this government has worked for the poorest of Indians. 11 crore women got access to toilets for the first time because Narendra Modi built toilets for India's women, 11 crore of them in just 9 years. They are the ones that he works for. The poorest of Indians, 4 crore of them, got a makan, got a home that they call their own, thanks to the Prime Minister. There is a very interesting tidbit I want to share. Do you know all of these homes that are built under the Prime Minister Awas Yojana? It is not registered in the name of the man of the house. It is registered in the woman of the house. So it is true women empowerment at play. 31 lakh crore rupees is transferred through direct benefit transfer. Do you remember? There were times when Sarkar from Delhi would release something and by the time it would reach the village, the middlemen would have eaten up all of this. Now, if 1 rupee is transferred, 1 rupee completely comes into your account. And not just that, message भी आता है, SMS भी आता है कि debit हो चुका है, credit हो चुका है. 31 lakh crore rupees has been transferred. 12 crore jobs have been created. Kitna? In the MSME sector alone, 12 crore jobs have been created. 8 crore new entrepreneurs have been created just to Mudra Yojana. And by entrepreneurs, I just don't mean a Paytm. I just don't mean a Zerodha. Like I said, it may be somebody, 2 women, 3 women coming together and starting a small achar manufacturing unit. Even that is entrepreneurship. 8 crore such new entrepreneurs have been created. Defense exports one of your friends made this point that we were earlier importing Today we are exporting. What is the size of our export? 16,000 crores we have exported in defense manufacturing today. Imagine the scale. And this is something that I really want all of you to look at. 35 crore people have got access to Ayushman Bharat insurance. You know how big that number is? And more than 35 crore women. You will be surprised to know this. Even to this day, there is a taboo in the country, especially amongst the women in a rural households, to get screened for breast cancer and cervical cancer. But it's a disease that eats them up alive silently. More than 35 crore women in India have got free screening for detection of cancer in breast cancer and cervical cancer cases. Imagine how many poor Indian women have been saved because of that. And all of that has happened because of the Ayushman Bharat mission. If you are around Delhi, if you come around AIMS, if you come around Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, you will see so many people जो बिहार से आए हैं, उत्तराखंड से आए हैं, यूपी के दूर दराज गांवों से आए हैं, who stay for weeks sleeping outside the footpaths. And you know, before visiting the doctor, who they would have visited? They would have visited the money lender. They would have visited that pawnbroker, where they would have mortgaged their house documents, Mangal Sutra of the wife. This was the situation. Up to 5 lakh rupees free treatment in any hospital. That's what Ayushman Bharat has given to India today. While we have been doing all of this, the country has also found great confidence, self-confidence in its abilities. Nothing reflects it better than some of the recent achievements in just the last 1 week. Just look at the headlines that Indians all over the world have created in the last 1 week. We became the first nation in the world to successfully land near the south pole of the moon. We are now going to be one of the very few nations, one of the only 3 nations in the world that is going to have a successful solar mission that is going to be launched on the 2nd of September, that is tomorrow, Aditya L1. Just last week, a 18-year-old young Indian, Pragnananda, made headlines all over the world by re-establishing Indian hegemony, Indian supremacy in chess. A game that our ancestors invented right here in India. India is making headlines again. Our national hero, a poster boy of athletics, Neeraj Chopra, won the javelin throw world championship another time and re-established his supremacy. He made headlines again. For the World Athletics Relay Championship, our 4-men team, 4 into 400 relay. Did you watch that video? In the commentator, while describing an Indian runner, says that this was absolutely unexpected. The Indians are having a run of their lifetime. That was what he was commenting when he was looking at us chasing. They were running like cheetahs. We put behind Japan, we put behind Botswana, we put behind many African nations. Whether it's sports, whether it's space, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's sericulture, whether it is agriculture, whether it is politics, whether it is entrepreneurship, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is digital inclusion, whether it is giving insurance to the large number of people, whether it is patents, whether it is anything. I saw just in your Manav Rachna University's brochure, just look at that. 535 plus patents filed and granted. Can you look at that? That is again an indication of India's growing research foundation, research and technology prowess. This, my dear friends, is the story of how a country today is on the rise. My request to all of you before I conclude is this. The last 10 years were an extremely important period for India. From being considered the weakest, we are now being considered one of the strongest. For millions of Indians who were left hopeless, there is hope today. For millions of Indians who never had seen the inside of a bank, there is banking sector that has gone right inside their homes and has brought them in a formal economy. The last 10 years have been monumental for the country. But remember this, the next 10 years is going to be even more important and critical for India than what the last 10 years was. And it is there that all of our collective responsibility and our participation matters. The next 10 years, whatever we touch will turn gold. Remember this. Whatever Indians will touch the next 10 years will become gold. So if you are 18 today, if you are 20 today, if you are 21 today, dedicate the next 10 years of your life for this larger goal of seeing India right at the top of the world. And along with its growth, just like how India lifted out 13.5 crore people out of poverty, it is going to take all of us to new riches, new prosperity, and new happiness. And India, in less than 10 years from now, powered by all of our energy and strength, our dreams and ambitions, our energy, India is going to firmly establish itself as the leader of the world in all aspects, defense to engineering, technology to space. That's the reality that you and I will not only live to see, but it's a reality that you and I will craft for the country. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience, Manav Rachna.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Ananya. I would like to ask you, what's your plan to address the problems faced by students like unemployment, mental health issues?
You spoke about unemployment. What's your name?
I'm Ananya.
Ananya, the last 45-50 minutes that I spoke of addresses comprehensively the ideas that the government is working on to facilitate and create more employment in the nation. So be rest assured that as and when you graduate, there will be more opportunities awaiting you than what awaited a young Indian a decade ago. So the country is on the rise. There is a lot of opportunity that is being created every day from all the sectors that we mentioned: manufacturing, banking, financial services, agro-processing, space, drones. All of these are going to get a lot of opportunities in the coming years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We trust the government.
My question to you is, we have so many youngsters sitting out here today. What inspired you to pursue a career in politics? And is that something that our members sitting here today can actually pursue as a career in today's India?
Absolutely. There were two things that personally inspired me to come to politics. As a youngster, I had the good fortune of being exposed to the writings and literature of Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo. And I also had the good fortune of getting mentored and getting exposed to organizations like the ABVP, the RSS, and the BJYM later. Most importantly, when I was in my most formative years of 27, 26, 28, Narendra Modi as an idea, as a man, as a phenomena, captured the imagination of young people all across the country. The early days of 2012, 13 and 14. It gave us a lot of hope that young people coming from non-political backgrounds can rise to any position in this country. If a chai wala can rise to be the prime minister, then there is hope for every single Indian in the country that this democracy works, that this democracy functions. That you don't have to be born in a political family, that you need not have Gandhi as your surname to be a prime minister in the country. That's what Narendra Modi changed for us. That's what Narendra Modi changed for a generation of Indians. So politics is an extremely important platform to effect change at scale in society. And I think these were two important role models. The Narendra of then and the Narendra of today, who inspired me to come to politics.
Thank you so much. I think as members of the youth, it definitely reassures our faith in merit being extremely important for our rise. There was a question in the audience, please.
My name is Anshi, and I want to ask that how do you approach issues that are of particular importance to the younger generation?
Like what issues?
Like for example, in quota and all, when the young students go for their coaching,
Yes.
Then they are suffering from mental issues.
Yes.
I'm talking about
Yes.
that only.
Thank you. It's a very sensitive issue, a very important issue that you have highlighted, ma'am. The government has launched a national mental health helpline. Students can call the helpline and seek mental health and counseling. That's something that the government has done from its end. The government has also reviewed the national education policy. And the new education policy lays more stress on learning and comprehension than on pedagogic, rote learning, which creates immense stress among students. While these are two government interventions that have been successful, I would also want to stress this to young students. Friends, while learning is very important, while understanding the first principles, foundational principles of any subject is important, the marks that you get in your exams is not going to fully and wholly determine the quality and success of your life. I can say this on the experience of having lived a few years more than all of you have. The most successful of entrepreneurs that I have met, the most successful of global CEOs that I have met and had the opportunity to interact, the successful political leaders who have actually impacted thousands of lives positively, all of them have lived a life that is beyond just marks. So please remember that a piece of paper, a certificate is not going to give you a certificate for the rest of your life. While it has its importance, while we need to strive hard to achieve academic success, if your heart lies elsewhere, if you're passionate about something else, please pursue that with 100% commitment, and no force on earth can stop you from achieving success. This is a reality of the world. If you want to be a great scientist, please pursue science with love. If you want to be a sports person, please achieve that with all heart and soul. Anything that we give 100% to will always reward us back with more. Please keep this in mind and do not tie yourself unnecessarily, be bound by unnecessary pressures which are going to curb us down. This is the only request I have to make of all of you.
I think that's very, very valuable advice to all our youngsters here, that especially in today's India, it's your passion that's going to take you through, and that'll make sure that success will follow. I cannot thank you enough, Tejasvi ji, for actually taking out the time and interacting with all of us. It's truly been an absolute delight.
Thank you so much, Kritika. Thank you so much, Manav Rachna. You guys have been such a patient audience, such an engaging audience. Thank you so much. Namaste.
सही समय है